The neon sign of Rosie's Diner flickered weakly against the gray drizzle of a Sunday afternoon. Inside, the place smelled of coffee that had been brewing too long and fries sizzling on the flat top. A few regulars sat in their booths, staring into cups or scrolling their phones, waiting for the rain to pass. At the far corner near the window sat Emily. She was 16, her hair tied back in a loose ponytail, and her left leg rested in a brace that stretched from thigh to ankle. Emily had been born with a degenerative condition that made walking painful and sometimes impossible. Still, she tried to live as normally as she could. That afternoon, she had begged her mother to let her walk alone to the diner. A short trip, but a milestone for her sense of independence. She wanted to prove to herself she could manage without leaning on anyone. With a notebook open in front of her and a half-eaten grilled cheese, she scribbled little poems about hope, each line carrying the quiet dream of being seen beyond her disability. The bell above the diner door jingled, sharp against the hum of the rain. 3 teenage boys walked in, laughing too loudly, their sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. Their voices cut through the room like broken glass. They were the kind of boys everyone knew. Loud, restless, searching for someone weaker to remind them of their own strength. Their eyes fell on Emily. She looked down quickly, hoping they would pass, but their footsteps dragged toward her booth. "Well, look at this," one of them sneered. "Iron girl, huh? Didn't know the diner was serving charity cases today." Hey, Emily's hands trembled on her notebook, but she tried to ignore them. She had been through this before. The mocking, the cruel names, the sideways looks. But the boys weren't satisfied with silence. One of them leaned closer, grabbing her notebook. "What's this?" "Oh, poetry. Cute. Maybe you should write about how slow you walk." He laughed, his friends echoing behind him. Emily reached for the notebook. "Please, give it back." But the boy smirked, snapped the page she had been working on in half, and shoved the torn paper onto the table. Another one flicked her brace with his sneaker, the metallic sound loud in the quiet diner. Emily winced, clutching the edge of the booth. Then came the slap. Sudden, stinging, sharp against her cheek. The boy closest to her leaned back as if proud of himself, his grin stretching wide. The diner fell into silence. A couple of patrons looked up but quickly back down, pretending they hadn't seen. The waitress froze behind the counter, torn between wanting to help and fearing trouble. Emily's eyes filled with tears, not just from pain but from the familiar ache of being invisible when she needed someone most. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the corner booth where nobody could see her shame. The boys laughed again and walked out, leaving the bell on the door jingling in their wake. The silence after their exit felt heavier than their presence. Emily wiped her face with shaky hands, picked up her crumpled notebook, and tried to steady her breathing. Her grilled cheese had gone cold. An hour passed. Rain still whispered against the glass, and the diner's neon sign continued its flicker. Emily debated calling her mom, but something inside her wanted to reclaim the moment, to not let cruelty define her day. She stayed sipping lukewarm coffee, trying to stitch her dignity back together. Then the bell above the door rang again. This time, 6 men walked in, bikers. Their leather jackets were patched with names of clubs and roads traveled, their boots heavy, their presence undeniable. They carried the smell of rain, gasoline, and long rides on open highways. The diner seemed to shrink as they entered, the waitress straightening nervously, other customers glancing away. Emily stiffened. These men were intimidating, their faces weathered, their voices deep as they ordered coffee and burgers. She pulled her notebook closer, hoping not to draw attention. But one of them noticed her, a tall man with a gray beard and eyes that had clearly seen both hard roads and soft moments. He tilted his head slightly, noticing the redness on her cheek, the brace on her leg, the way her hands trembled when she tried to turn the page of her notebook. "What happened, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Emily froze. "And nothing. I'm fine." Another biker leaned in. "That's not nothing. Someone put that mark on your face." Her throat tightened. The words spilled out before she could stop them. She told them about the boys, the mocking, the slap, the laughter. The room grew still again, but this time, silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like the pause before a storm. The bikers exchanged looks, subtle nods passing between them. They didn't speak immediately, but their energy shifted. One of them muttered, "Cowards." Emily worried. "Please don't make trouble. They're just boys." The gray, bearded biker crouched down beside her booth, his leather jacket creaking as he leaned close enough that his voice softened to a promise. "Sweetheart, standing up to bullies isn't trouble. It's justice." He reached out, gently taking her torn page, smoothing it flat against the table. "You keep writing," he said. "The world needs voices like yours." Minutes later, the bell on the door rang again. The three boys returned, loud as ever, probably hoping to stir more chaos. But this time, they froze mid-laugh. 6 bikers turned in unison, their presence filling the diner like thunder. One biker stood slowly, towering over them. "You the ones who put your hands on that girl." His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made the boys' laughter die instantly. The tallest boy tried to scoff, but his voice cracked. "We were just joking." The gray, bearded biker cut him off. "Jokes don't leave bruises." The bikers stepped forward, surrounding the boys, not touching them, but close enough that the air itself seemed charged. The waitress crossed her arms, smirking for the first time that day. Other customers straightened, no longer pretending they hadn't seen. "You're gonna apologize," the biker said, pointing to Emily. "Now, with respect." The boys stammered, their arrogance crumbling. One muttered a sorry. Another followed, and finally, the one who slapped her swallowed hard, mumbling an apology that barely cleared his lips. Louder, one biker barked. "I'm sorry," the boy said, his voice shaking. Emily looked at them, her heart pounding, tears rising again. But this time, not from pain. The bikers didn't make the boys stay longer. They waved them off with a warning. "Next time you think about picking on someone weaker, remember this room. Remember us." The boys scrambled out, their sneakers squeaking like frightened mice. The diner let out a breath it had been holding. Emily sat in awe, her notebook clutched tight. The gray, bearded biker returned to her table, smiling softly. "You're braver than you know," he told her. "Don't let anyone dim that." For the first time that day, Emily felt seen, not for her brace, not for her pain, but for her spirit. The bikers finished their meals, cracked a few jokes with the waitress, and before they left, the gray, bearded man placed a $20 bill under Emily's plate. "For your next poem," he said with a wink. When the bell rang and the bikers walked out into the rain, the diner felt different, lighter, brighter. Emily touched the spot on her cheek, then opened her notebook and began to write again. Her words flowed stronger this time, each line no longer just a whisper of hope, but a roar of resilience. And somewhere in her heart, she knew kindness, when it shows up, can rewrite even the cruelest of days. So if you believe in kindness, in standing up for those who can't, don't just watch. Be the reason someone feels seen. And if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to subscribe.